able to get an appraisal of $2.7 million.
2.7, wow. And so you create $1 million of equity from one deal. All right, today we have special guest Alex Camacho. He's flipped over 100 houses and has made millions as an investor over the course of his career. He runs a team of 12 guys and has built an amazing life by design, which I really love. He splits time between LA, Hawaii, and Guadalajara, and has houses in all places. Welcome to the show, homie.
What's up, Daniel? How are you, man? I'm honored to be here. Oahu is one of my favorite places in the entire world. As much as I travel, I love being here.
It's so much fun having you on the show and just like on the island. I feel like every time you land, I feel like the presence of you bring such good energy wherever you go. So.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And I feel the aloha when I'm here. So it's definitely reciprocal and appreciated for sure.
Awesome. So excited to jump into your story. I know you have some crazy things that you've kind of built and gone through your own little rags to riches story. And so walk us through what were you doing before real estate, and then how did you get involved with real estate?
Yeah, of course. So I'll try to condense it down, but I've been in and out of real estate for the good part of almost 2 decades now, really.
Wow, okay.
But I really started in the banking industry right out of high school. That gave me a great foundation. Learned a lot about how the financial system worked. Got to appreciate all the details of that because none of the people that I was around in my growing up, in humble beginnings in Southern California ever did anything like that.
I see. Got
that great foundation. Went into the mortgage business back before the whole Great Depression or the great debacle of 2008. So I had a great run before that. Got to experience some really high levels of income. But I'll be honest, I didn't really have mentors at that time. I wasn't really, the type of person that would read books and maybe have good habits.
And, at that point in time,
I definitely had the ambition and did a lot during that time as far as to grow by working hard, but also working smart and having strategic kind of alliances. But during that time, I didn't build it on a solid foundation. So then I ended up kind of losing everything. It hurt badly.
So you're talking about in the 2008 crash?
Yeah, because I had a couple of houses and I had a small business.
So before that, you were you were in the banking industry. You're doing really well financially, kind of crushing it during that time. But then you say during the 2008 crash, a lot of the wealth that you built up during that time kind of fell to the wayside.
Yeah, because I had made poor decisions on the money that I had making during that time, and then so once there was a huge correction and things changed dramatically within the business, I wasn't able to make that shift. But I did learn a lot during that time.
Yeah,
that's a tremendous lessons that anybody's experienced quote unquote failure, they'll know that you do take some of your best lessons from things that you screw up and things that you do wrong. And so ended up falling into real estate as an agent during that time because
after the 2008 crisis.
Yeah, it was just so many short sales, all this stuff going on, there's foreclosures, everybody does, nobody has equity. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it was rough. I know a lot of people haven't experienced that because it's been a while, but we're in 2023, but the market, it just took a complete nosedive.
So you became a real estate agent in 2008.
Yeah. So I was doing a bunch of short sales. Well, 2009, 2010. And I just did a bunch of short sales, learned a lot about that process. It's probably going to become more prevalent now, but there's actually departments within banks set up to negotiate short sales, loan modifications, other such. And so I did a lot of those during that time. Got to learn the kind of the ugly part of that side because it was related to real estate, right? There's people in short sale situations have no equity, and then there's people that are in foreclosure, losing their properties for so many different reasons. That learned a lot during that time, and that's when I got the bug of being a real estate investor. Yeah, dude, it was during that time where I was witnessing the other side by being on the front end, by deal making, by sourcing short sales, negotiating with the bank, and then the investor would go ahead and buy it and then fix it and flip it. So then I realized quickly after a couple of those transactions that, hey, I think I could be a good house flipper because these guys are making 10 times what I'm making essentially, and I'm doing most of the heavy lifting when we really look at the picture of what's being done here. But yeah,
I love it. So I mean, you're really you dove into the niche where you saw there was a need, you thought it was an opportunity as an agent. So you're finding all these great deals for these other investors. You're selling to these investors, but on the back end, you see how much they're making. You're like, hey, actually, after looking at the whole bigger picture, I feel like I want to be on that side of the transaction. So.
Yeah. And I've noticed that with a lot of successful entrepreneurs, people that I've come across in my journey, it's just they're observant. They're seeing opportunities because you have to be able to be prepared for something that comes up. that is going to require some action from your part. And I noticed that like, hey, wait a minute, I need to start thinking of this situation differently. I need to be what they're doing. But then I let life get in the middle, and then I went back and got lured into like the mortgage business again because it was kind of simple, a business, and somebody gave me an opportunity that I just felt like it can't work out. Then I did some Airbnb arbitrage because that didn't opportunity didn't turn out. But then I really had this bug planted, and I'm like, hey, I have to be a house super. This is something that I feel like I'd be great at. And it can help me make a ton of money, and it can help me buy rentals, and it helped me just basically be a professional house buyer. I just felt that was like a calling or just like a dream job.
So I mean, in the back of your mind, you kind of had like, it was a creative thing that was like kind of brewing, but then you kind of go through different kind of phases and transition. So you went into the mortgage, back to the mortgage industry. How did you actually, what year did you actually start taking action towards being an actual like real estate investor?
Yeah, great question. I started my journey of education in late 2016. But I already had enough background to be able to say, hey, I only need enough to. And then most of what I learned was you probably have to go pay somebody to coach you, or you have to go work for somebody, and then they can teach you the game. You got to pay your dues, and kind of one of those two different avenues. And so I decided to go with the one where I would go work for somebody. I listened to Bigger Pockets. I did all that stuff, read some books, but really came down to execution and implementation of what I learned, which is how do I source great investment deals in Southern California consistently. And then once I learned that skill set, then I know I can go off and acquire properties for myself and be able to make millions of dollars and or keep a lot of real estate.
I love it. Like I think just like your mindset of like, you're always like, number one, you're looking for opportunity, but number two is like, you're willing to put in the work. I feel like in every step of your career, like whether you're a mortgage broker or a real estate agent, you're always doing production, right? So there's always fruit from everything you're doing. So it's not like you're not dabbling in these things. You're putting a lot of time, energy, and hustle into these things, and you're getting like a lot of fruit back from it. But then like each opportunity that you get into, the same input, you can just get bigger outputs, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think I've toggled between taking massive action and purposeful action, and then also strategic thinking and pondering these ideas and direction of my life and business. And I think that there's a lot of value of doing both consistently for yourself, because every quarter or so, if you're taking a lot of action, then things will come up, new challenges, new opportunities, and you have to be able to digest those and then have some response, because you're missing opportunities or you're not implementing enough. And so I definitely, can overthink things and procrastinate like everybody else. But when I'm thinking bigger picture, and then I'm going granular on a weekly basis with my team, and the way I kind of lead and what, my vision forward is, then there's always, some big, hairy, audacious goal, as they say. I think in a great book written by Jim Collins called Good to Great. And then also the kind of just the day-to-day steps that we need to do just to make that big goal happen.
So you worked for this company for, was like 1 year, 2 years? How long were you at this company where you were finding great deals for them?
Yeah, so it essentially that was 2.5 years. 1 year working for the first company. I outgrew that role, and then I ended up working for another company for about a year and a half. And then that's the kind of what I call my apprenticeship phase, or the time I was really paying my dues, not earning as much as maybe I felt I was capable of, or I wanted to, or that I had made in the past, because I had made a lot of money in the mortgage and some real estate and things like that. So I had a pretty high standard. And living in Southern California, man, you got to make $100,000 a year, or
just to survive.
You should probably just be somewhere else, because it's really not that pleasant. We jokingly say, it's been said in the past, it's a land of have and have nots. Like you have these ghettos like in South Central LA, and then you have Beverly Hills, and these areas that are kind of adjacent to each other. So I guess really for me, that's kind of where my journey came, as like, hey, I feel like I have this opportunity with flipping. I went and worked for this companies. I paid my dues.
So you actually started my own took company. A pay cut to like kind of like to work for these guys, because you were making more as an agent as in the mortgage industry, but you purposely took a pay cut for like the learning. And then after the 2.5 years of learning, you're like, yeah, I'm ready to strike out on my own. And then, so what was that like first like strike out on your own? What did that look like?
So when I went out on my own, I started with just simple steps, like hiring a virtual assistant to handle administrative work. I did also purchase a wholesaling course from somebody that I got introduced to, and I had been to some of his partners' seminars. And so that's also been a kind of a common theme of just constantly learning something new, being at the forefront, knowing that you have to invest to learn some advanced strategies or some techniques that are going to be working. And be very, because this is a very lucrative business. Right. Like whether you're flipping real estate, you're buying and holding, you're doing other strategies within real estate investing. So I've never been afraid to invest time, money, and energy. I've had varying amounts of each during my career. I think you have to constantly allocate. What it's going to be. But I worked for those companies for 2.5 years, saved close to a couple $100,000 during that time, and just from commissions and bonuses from the flips. I did help them source in that time about 65 houses that we purchased in 2.5 years. I wasn't able to keep any of those properties because I was just like the acquisition person.
You were kind of like a cog in the wheel at that point in time, right?
Yeah, there was no option of like, hey, let's see if Alex wants to buy this property, keep it wholesale. But what that also did is that it created a desire in me where they couldn't fulfill, where it's like, hey, ultimately I have to create my own thing. I probably would have stayed longer. I tell people in that position of the second company because I was making more money and I felt like I had some upside potential with that company, but it just was very limited. I felt I couldn't grow anymore. So that's also been common for me that once I feel I can't grow anymore in a certain position or situation, I want to continue to move on then.
I feel like that's a common theme for like a lot of people where like you kind of outgrow your company, right? But like I think like the common thing I see often, or for myself even, is like you get comfortable, and even like there's like you're capped at your ceiling. You're too comfortable to move. And so like I think like a lot of people when I was in my W-2, I was probably making less than I was worth, but I was just happy like being there because I was just so comfortable. And then the uncomfort of moving was higher than the comfort of just staying there, like So like it's
absolutely, I agree.
But then so like you took the bold step of leaving that company to kind of start your own thing. How did you guys like start getting like your deals or finding your first fix and flip?
Well, initially I just continued to do what I did in the past. When I was working for the other companies, I would either source deals by making consistent offers on MLS. Just going in savage mode and just looking at a lot of properties, going to a lot of open houses, meeting a lot of agents. So it was a little bit it was all that. I would also had some wholesaler contacts. I also had some Google PPC kind of going on. So I was actively putting money into marketing because that was one of the issues I had with the other company I worked for. They just didn't want to invest into anything marketing. They were just like buy up MLS deals, wholesale deals. I felt there was other ways, and we did.
The bigger spreads and kind of like the off-market deals has more opportunities.
And every time they did put a little money into it, I converted. I just felt like, hey, this is like something we got to continue to do. They didn't want to do that. So that was kind of one of those issues like, hey, all right, well, then I'll just put my money where my mouth is. It worked out. Now, we had a great run. I think we purchased half a dozen properties or so.
The first year?
In that year, just from that campaign. And those,
okay.
were all lucrative deals. Some of them, were 6-figure flips.
Wow.
I had a buy and hold in there, a sub 2 deal that I got from that marketing. But yeah, so I went off on my own. And
what year was this?
This was 2020. So 2019-20
is when you kind of strike it out on your own for the first time. Wow. So like the growth you've had in that short period of time has been amazing then. So
yeah, I mean, it's been just a combination of all that, just the social media, the branding, the events that we throw, the webinars we did for a couple of years.
I remember those webinars. I used to go to them. You guys always had so much value. Like
thank you, man. And that was a big part of what we did. What we did were I simultaneously grew as an investor, but also grew as in trying to help other people along that perhaps were a little bit more junior in their career. Because I always felt that I worked hard to get this information and learn real estate investing from the ground up, that I felt somewhat of an obligation to help empower other people to kind of do the same thing, because flipping houses or buying great deals, it isn't rocket science. Like I think any average person can do it. That's why so many millionaires next door do it through real estate investing. I have had, I guess, a growth spurt over the last 2-3 years, but I've also invested in coaching and masterminds and courses all along the way. So that's a big reflection of that too, because and I feel like I haven't even really scratched the surface. I think I'm just getting started.
I feel like you're just getting started too. I mean, your growth in the last, like from just starting your company in 2019 to where you are now is leaps and bounds. Now you're holding events with like 1,000 people. You've got like all these like big speakers coming down. You're just like but I mean, just like you're growing at such a big pace, and I just like seeing like your trajectory is, you're only going to go up from here. And so like I'm a firm believer, just really like love your brand. Just like
you far past me a long time ago. No, I'm okay with that, because then I have all these big friends in the business, and it's like having a bunch of big brothers that got my back.
But no, but I mean, just so stoked for you, like along your journey. But along that journey that you've taken, you've done tons of deals, over 150 different fix and flips. But you, like, most of them were in the California space, but like recently you've done some deals in Hawaii as well too. And so I know you have like a pretty big deal in Maui that you've done. So tell us about your Maui deal.
Yeah, so I moved to Maui about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And so once I moved to Maui, obviously I wanted to buy some real estate there and do some deals, but took some time to really just focus on my operations in LA because I was essentially remote flipping.
Okay.
And creating this lifestyle business where I didn't have to necessarily be in LA because I had spent so much time there and knew the neighborhoods. And
you built the foundation ahead of time. So
so I think that's very, very relevant. So during the pandemic, I got this opportunity to be closer to Brandon Turner, one of my mentors. And I know you also look up to him. And I jumped on the opportunity because I felt like this was once in a lifetime. I'm single, I don't have any kids, and I had sold my property. The pandemic hit LA hard and was closed down. So I moved. So long story short, it turned out great because I continued to buy in LA during the pandemic. I also then found somebody that could help me do the acquisitions because since I was pretty busy with everything that was going on in LA, I was remote flipping half a dozen properties at once in LA, and then also living in Hawaii and the time difference. So somebody reached out to me and wanted to work with me in the acquisition side of things. In Maui. So kind of mentored him. He went off and did this Driving for Dollars campaign. And it was something very simple. He really wanted it. I had the experience and the budget. We put in, these addresses into this deal machine application. We started sending postcards monthly. We got a couple of great leads. One of them turned out to be a property that I ended up closing on, a subject to deal.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, I'm sorry. Forgive me. I closed on this property seller financing. So, because he didn't owe anything on the property. And it was much better than hard money. During that time, and it was a pretty big down payment. But so many things happened along only that property because once we closed on it, within about 6 months, the comps far exceeded what we expected.
So what did you guys actually purchase it for when you first bought the property?
So we bought it for $1.35 million.
$1.35 million. And then after you purchased it, how much of a renovation did you have for it?
So since we furnished it, it's a 3,500 square foot house, and we had to remodel it. It was a newer property built in the early 90s, but we had to do a lot of landscaping and a lot of cosmetic upgrades. And doing that in Maui, it gets expensive quickly. So we spent close to $250,000 on all the upgrades, plus like furnishing and everything. So
so all in your 1.35 plus 2.5, 250, your 1.6 million all in on this project.
Well, with some holding costs, closer to 1.7. But the great thing is we were able to get an appraisal of $2.7 million.
2.7, wow. And so you create $1 million of equity from one deal.
Exactly.
Bro,
I love it. It's the power of real estate, and I know we wanted to talk about this too. That there were so many lessons on that one big deal, and also we negotiated with 3 different tenants during that time in a very tenant-friendly state of Hawaii. So we everything that I learned along my path helped me successfully execute on that deal, man.
So when you guys purchased it, there was actually tenants living there, and then it wasn't an easy process to get them out, you said.
Yes, exactly. So when you're dealing with tenants that are in California, Hawaii, some of these states that are more tenant friendly, well, you just have to understand that things are more in their favor. But doesn't mean that you don't have any rights as a landlord. It just means that you just have to go through a certain process. And what I found is that these tenants typically want a lot of time or a lot of money, and if they're greedy, they want a lot of both. I jokingly say, but once I understood that they were consistently paying on time even during the pandemic, because a lot of people use that pandemic to stop paying the rent because there was an eviction moratorium, which meant that people could not be evicted. And so I went in there, I read the situation, but keep in mind I've had at that point already done over 100 deals. And,
so you've had ton of experience working with tenants and like that.
Yes, at least a dozen of those had been where I negotiated with tenants some type of relocation, or what we call cash for keys, and give them some money and some time.
What is cash for keys? Can you explain that?
Well, it's just a simple term to explain that you're negotiating with the tenant and giving them some cash in exchange for possession of the property and the keys. So
you're actually paying the tenant to have them move out. In this case.
And when we budgeted in this deal, check this out, $35,000.
Wow. $35,000 to pay somebody to just leave the house.
Exactly. Because we needed to get the property in a vacant possession eventually. So we could rehab the unit and improve the value. And then do what we're gonna do. At the time, we were gonna resell the property and potentially flip it. But as you know, we were able to successfully keep it because value went up. We had lower holding costs because we negotiated that seller finance. And then the market improved in our favor. And we had to actually fire a couple contractors because it was very difficult to find some quality, the work that we needed there on island in Maui. And those delays actually ended up helping us because comps improved. Our ability to potentially keep the property
went up as time went up. So
and then my financial situation also improved during that time with the house flipping I was doing in Southern California. So all these factors contributed. So you never know. That's why you have to buy real estate. And then with a good enough deal, there's going to be multiple ways we can exit that property. I'm sure you can agree.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, like, just like there seems like there are a lot of learning lessons along the way, and just like hurdles that you, like, probably some new hurdles that you had to overcome, but also like pulling on past experience, right? Like, you've done so many deals, put in so much work in like working for other people and on your own time that like when you're coming and facing these challenges, like you come with like a lens of like number one experience, but also like problem solving. And so, but I mean, like, I'm still stuck on this $35,000 like cash for keys thing. And so, what, I mean, do you just like say, hey, would you like leave? I'll give you $35,000 to like leave the house? Like, how does that work?
This is how I recommend people normally talk to tenants or have some type of kind of agreement or you begin to work for that. Is I really like to read the situation before I buy the property. Because once you've already bought the property, they could be open a whole bunch of kind of worms.
Got it.
I try to open communication, and there's certain ways you can do it, but essentially during your inspection period of the property that you have, typically when you make an offer and get it accepted, is you're actively trying to talk to them and ask what their plans are with the property or plans are with them going forward, because your plans
because you're buying with tenants, you want to kind of like vet the tenants and see what are their goals and what do they actually want out of
exactly. So that way you can begin to what I like to call just kind of reading the temperature of the situation. Because a lot of times there's a breakdown between the current owner of the property and the tenants, and a communication breakdown. And then you're trying to come in there as a kind of a nonpartisan, unbiased person and saying, hey, I'm just here to kind of find out what your plan is, because at some point in time you are going to need to kind of move on and live somewhere else. And just take a real human approach. And that's really worked for me in the past. But I have had to be more persistent or somewhat kind of forceful in the state that, hey, I'm open to going to court, getting lawyers, doing all this other stuff, and saying, hey, I have the capacity to do all this, but I would much rather prefer work something win-win with you as a tenant, me as the owner, and forget what happened, as long as it's something that's reasonable between us and we can work this out. Let's take that approach. And so that has usually borne me a lot more fruit than just going aggressive and being antagonistic. Now, I will say I've used certain strategies during, such as that we jokingly say kind of like construction evictions, because I knew once I had one of those 3 units, pretty much empty or vacant, that then I could begin work on my property, because I own this property, as long as I'm giving notice. And we did that. And so now it's no longer kind of their home, quote unquote, because they do begin to feel very entitled to like the house itself, like they own it themselves, but they're tenants, they don't own it. And then now there's like noise going on during working hours, but hey, we're doing work on this property. This is
almost like a construction zone at that point, is what you're saying. So
I know. Say, hey, we respect you and all that. However, like, let's work this out, because so there's little nuances to like negotiating with tenants and saying like good cop, bad cop, or just like, hey, we want to work with you, but at the same time, where you're not going to bully us around, because you have some tenants that really take advantage of the situation.
But I mean, it sounds like it was a win-win in this situation where they got some good cash, and then you also got the property like able to work on it, and now actually like renovate and refinance.
And I mean, I didn't expect them to move out overnight, so I visited them every week or spoke to them every week for the good part of almost 2 months to get them all out. So it was an ongoing negotiation. But remember, I had a good hand, right? It was like, hey, I have this money for you, and I'm going to give you free rent, because also what we do typically is say, hey, we're not going to be taking any more of your rent, because we do want possession of the property, so we're open to work with you and some relocation and essentially start out with something you feel is reasonable, anywhere that can be anywhere from $2,500 to anywhere to $5,000 say initially, but then it very often can reach 15, 20,000, 25,000, because the alternative is that you hold the property longer, which costs you money monthly as a landlord if they're if they're not paying or if the rent is significantly lower than what the market value is, and then you also are kind of having to potentially bring on legal counsel to get them out.
And that's expensive as well too, right?
Exactly. So you're kind of playing that card like, hey, you know what? I could go this route, and I know I can, but I'd much rather go this route with you.
I can spend my $35,000 on legal fees, or you can have it. So like, let's make a deal to where it's like.
Yeah, because the guy with the biggest unit he'd been there the longest and was paying next to nothing, and so I knew I had to give them a large amount, $20,000 what I budget for that one.
Okay.
The person downstairs had been there less long, but also was pretty entitled. I budgeted $10,000 for that tenant, and then the other single studio had only been there for a couple years, so I budgeted $5,000. So I like to say proudly that I got them out for $34,000, and they walked away with a win-win. They were able to move on to the next step of their life. They had lived in this magical property for a nice period of time, and then they were able to move on with free rent and also have some money in their pocket. And then I was able to get the possession of property that we invested huge amounts of hundreds of thousands of dollars to acquire.
I love it. I mean, when I was a tenant, I would love to have a landlord buy it and give me some cash to leave my property. I mean, but it's like you said, it's a win-win for everybody. But in the grand scheme of things, you guys made over $1 million in equity from this house, maybe more at this point in the market. But it cost you. It seems $35,000 seems like a lot, but in the grand scheme of the deal, it wasn't
exactly. Some people will say out of ego or just not understanding how these things typically work, that's way too much. But based on the size of the deal, and then also they had leverage. There was a eviction moratorium. So they could have just dug their heels. You have to negotiate. But I'll understand that, hey, there's some leverage points. And so I think that the more skills that you learn by doing more deals, the more you could potentially land deals like this, like home run deals. And I think you'll agree, like you're typically not going to hit a home run on your first 5 deals or so. It's your job. Just don't lose money, be profitable, learn the skills.
Eventually the home run is going to come, right?
And then the home run will come because you'll be more and prepared for those unique opportunities that come up that are potentially home run deals.
Amazing. I mean, I love when guys hit home run deals. It makes me happy, especially for like such a good guy like yourself, bro. So
thanks, man.
Congratulations.
And I know you bought a chance to see the property.
Beautiful house, beautiful view, and a beautiful beautiful location. So
thank you,
so
man.
Congratulations
Thank you.
on. So I mean, like on the journey to making millions, sometimes there's like a few bumps and bruises along the way. And I think like recently you talked about like you had a split with one of your partners. Like what happened there, and what was like that? What happened there?
Yeah, of course. So along the way, I think you grow, right, and you have people that join your team, people that you recruit, people that you attract, people that have to move on or go in a different direction. And so I think it's this a constant, kind of turnover or change that you have to become comfortable with as an entrepreneur.
So as you're growing your company, then like there's people you're gonna expect people to come and go in your life.
Exactly. And it's tough because you grow deep bonds and relationship with people. So I recently had a partner split earlier this year, 2023. Somebody that I worked with for a good part of almost 2 years, helped grow some of the company. We did some amazing deals together. When I decided to move back to Los Angeles a little bit more formally, because I spent more time in Hawaii and Mexico, that I needed to run the company a certain way, particularly because of the radical changes we were seeing with interest rates. And really put big challenges in front of us of getting less than we expected on certain projects. Actually losing a little bit of money on some projects. Delaying some ones that because of all of that kind of happening. And then I just decided to make changes. I at first had to let go of a project manager that wasn't performing. I also had to let go of a virtual assistant, and then earlier this year, we've since on brought in people that now are fitting those roles. But my previous partner and I decided to kind of move on, and it was something that it was difficult, but we both felt that it was better for both of you guys, both of our individual growth and kind of we had reached a point where it didn't feel like we were going to kind of continue to grow. So we had to kind of go our separate ways.
Once you lose like a big piece of your operation or a key thing, what do you do? Like, is it a huge step back? How do you feel that? What's like the process?
So I think it's something that we were preparing for, and so a lot of people kind of stepped up. And I think as a leader, you have to set expectations, set vision. Hey, this is kind of where things going on moving forward. But I think people already kind of can read the situation when you're dealing with small groups, 5, 10, 15, 20 people, which most startups are, people can sense quickly that things are off. When things are not heading in a positive direction. So that was kind of my job as leader to say, hey, this kind of has happened. It's gonna be challenging because the workload is gonna increase for all of us, including myself. But I mean, we're totally capable of doing it. So we just focus on kind of making an impact every single day on our business, and everybody just getting a little bit better.
So everybody kind of just put their head down and just kind of like pick up the slack, and you guys were just like able to kind of like power through.
Yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, it's not like we're gonna quit. It's just we're come across these particular challenges, and we just have to overcome them. So yeah, moving on from partnerships is something that could take some time, but now we're definitely headed in the right direction where we're doing that with.
I think you guys are both, like you and your previous partner, are both like doing really, really well, which is like a testament to like both of your guys. They just like who you guys as people, and so like just it's good to see like after like a partner split that both guys are also like kind of like succeeding and crushing. So like, kudos to both of you guys.
Growing pains. That's why they call it that.
One thing that I really admire or like about you is that you really live a life by design. So I always see you like traveling to different countries or different places, and like you kind of like you design your business around your life. So I know you've got a place in Maui, in Oahu, you got a place in LA, you've got a place in Guadalajara, and like just, I mean, you probably have a place in like New York and like Canada by the end of the year or something. It's just like you're always traveling, and you're like living like your best life while you're building and growing wealth. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, so it's been difficult to be able to kind of be in different locations, but I made a decision early on that when I was in the mortgage business, I was a slave to the office. That was one big, I think, reference that I had, or memory of like, hey, even though I was making a great living, I really wasn't having a great lifestyle. It was more of, hey, I'm making money, I'm hustling, and then I'm maybe
partying. Like 9 to 5, grinding in the office.
Yeah, and then partying on the weekend, doing the same stuff, hitting up Hollywood or something, or just going out with friends, doing really just nothing that I felt was like something I wanted to go back to. And then the pandemic hit, and then I moved to Hawaii, and I decided to do that. But before that, I had done a lot of kind of extended trips with people I had met through real estate masterminds, and then I met this super successful real estate investor from the Pacific Northwest. He was living part-time in Southern California, living the rest of the time in Seattle where he invests, and he was making it happen. He was coming back like weekly. I know it felt arduous. I know that could feel arduous to some certain people, but I'm a bit of an adventure guy. And so for me, flying and doing all that stuff is exciting. I don't get burnt out. And then I'm flying to great locations like Southern California, Hawaii, Guadalajara, Mexico, which is sort of like the LA of Mexico. And then I also like Phoenix for that reason. And we recently bought a building there, my first multi.
Now you're going to have a little spot in Phoenix too now.
Yeah. Well, I like to use my real estate. I feel like functionality for me is super important, or being able to use the places that I invest in or like that. It comes with sometimes its cons, because maybe I might not make as much cash flow, but then we are investing in Hawaii where appreciation. I mean, it's pretty serious. And I don't invest just for appreciation, but now having spent almost 3 years here in Hawaii, I do see why it consistently goes up. And it's not really a type of market that goes down drastically ever. So I kind of understand the market, and we diversify by having some investments here, cash flowing, rentals, single families in Southern California, and this 80 unit building in Phoenix, which is much more a landlord friendly state. And I like that a lot. And there's also a traveling hub, so I could travel back and forth. I mean, I could fly on a direct flight any day of the week.
They're all big cities for all the different places.
So but then being able to get there quickly.
But how so I mean, like being in like, let's say Hawaii 1 week, Guadalajara the next week, LA, Phoenix. How do you manage like your because you're flipping like 100 houses? I mean, like you're flipping doing a lot of like volume in LA, Hawaii, wherever you are. How do you manage that all?
Yeah, we're only doing between 20 and 30 projects annually. Annually. But we tend to focus on ones that are either going to be very consistent and a lower price point that gets us kind of like our, let's call it average $50,000 flip profit. And then in another part where we're closer to the $80,000 to $100,000 flip profits. And then we just focus on keeping the best ones. So my target is to ideally keep 10 to 20% of all the properties that I purchase.
But how do you manage it from all the traveling that you do?
Okay, so we have a weekly level 10 meeting. We follow certain business models, I guess we can call it, such as
so you guys
traction.
meet remotely, like online, pretty regularly, and kind of have a cadence.
So the main communication tools, if we want to talk granular, is as I obviously use like all of the G Suite, which is Google Drive and everything with Gmail and everything else. But we use a lot of WhatsApp groups because my virtual team all tends to use WhatsApp, so we communicate within groups there. And I think it's been pretty effective for us. We use Zoom regularly, so we have 3 or 4 on calendar meetings every single week. So whether we're discussing project management, acquisitions, all that. And then I'm readily available, even though I'm in different time zones and different locations. I still work.
So people can pick up the phone and say like, hey, Alex, we got this problem. Can you help us solve this or whatever? And so like you make yourself available to your team, even though like you're traveling.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's one of the sacrifices, being constantly available. Now, obviously I take time off and I take days off. And
I see you snorkeling. You're doing some like deep sea diving.
Well, I went snorkeling with turtles this morning. We seen monk seals out there in the bay where I was in West Oahu. It was amazing. I went out there for like an hour and 15 minutes. It was like essentially like my lunchtime. I went out there and just instead of going out there out for lunch, I just went 5 minutes from my house that we recently finished, and I started kind of exploring a little bit, and I seen that there's a nice beach there, so I went for middle of the day. Yeah, it's an hour and 15 minutes, but it's the best break I could ever imagine. In LA, I go to the Griffith Park, which is arguably kind of like the central park of LA, kind of like New York, and I go there and spend some time and break. So I think I'm always doing what I can to get away from the chaos, but understand like, hey, this is a price I have to pay if I would like to operate and do business and live in different locations or be in different locations on a regular basis.
Makes sense.
It's tough though. It's not for everybody.
But I mean, I just love like that. Like, just the way that you like live your life on your terms. I feel like, versus like you're not slave to the office or to like any boss, but like you have the freedom and the free spirit to kind of like live where you want. And like, at least from your stories, it seems like you're having a blast, like wherever you're going,
Absolutely. No, I love it. I feel like I'm just getting started. As you know, I build a network of people, which is one of the things I'm most proud of, is that I get to hang out with cool people like you and people that I respect and people I learn from and people that I have a good time with wherever I go. And I think that's part of feeling home at place. Is the network of people that you get to hang out with and spend time with when you're at these places. So I'm super proud of that, of being able to share some of these locations with people from other parts of my network. So if I have people from Southern California that, for example, invest in a deal that I'm flipping a house in an area they know, but then part of that, they end up again to have access to some of my properties because they're investors with us, and then they get to spend some time in Hawaii, for example, at one of our properties there, and that's just cool. It's so meaningful to me because these people are helping me win, and then also that we do that with some of our team members, such as in acquisitions. And people that are top performers in our company.
So you really maximize your properties for other people to actually use and enjoy too, right? So I love that.
Absolutely. So we get to experience and use these properties and leverage them in a creative way. And not only, hey, let's just buy and flip a bunch of houses or let's wholesale a bunch of houses. No, let's own some real estate that we all want to use and share in places that are cool.
I love it.
And people try to do that all the time with Airbnbs. Or I know that is something that comes up. People want to buy places they want to visit consistently. And I'm proudly able to do that with some of the stuff that I've done with Hawaii and then Mexico and Phoenix now.
One other thing is about you is that you have a really good brand. Like a lot of people know you as being a fix and flipper or just like a big personality in LA, in Hawaii, and all these different places. How have you built your brand so quickly and so so immensely in such a short amount of time?
What's up, my deal makers? So I began to work on social media sometime shortly after I started off on my own, which was like 2019, 20, because I was already looking at a ton of houses. There were weekends I would look at 20 houses and I'd just go ham. And so I was in different parts of LA. So I just started showing some of that off that led to where I was able to source my first deal from Instagram.
Wow. Okay.
And I remember that day because we made close to $90,000. Wow. That one I got a partner on.
So like your light bulb kind of went on at that point in time.
I was like, man, this is crazy. Like this person, I just met them randomly. We went and had coffee at Starbucks. And then next thing you know, I'm looking at some of his leads because he was cold calling. And then we turned into something. And then through my experience, I was able to lock it up. We partnered up on that deal. I found the capital. Even though I had the capital, interestingly enough, I couldn't get a hard money loan because I hadn't been on all those other houses.
Okay.
As like on the title.
On the HUD.
So exactly. And so I got a partner, but I did need the experience. So even though I didn't need the money after I already had the experience, it still was something that I had to find and source it. And I remember thinking deeply that if I could do this every single month, like how would I not be able to do it? I'm still going to be going looking at other houses now. I could just find deals through.
You just bringing the camera along with you on your journey of life.
I just got to show it off, and then people will come and send me deals through Instagram. This person did. Why can't I do it more? Maybe even do a couple deals a month. Social media. But that's because I had the proof of concept.
You're already doing it, right? You started doing it, and then you're showing what you're already doing.
And so then that ended up working out. So that led to me focusing on it consistently and saying, hey, I have to use this as a tool because it seems to fit like my personality and it seems to fit the business. And I'm hearing that, and I'm just now had this winner deal. And then I spent, say, $5,000 for this marketing campaign. And it didn't bear as much fruit as that. So what if I just put more attention and energy on this? And so that led me to start to focus on that. Then I got some mentors about it, investor girl Britt. I met her at a mastermind. She's very popular on Instagram, huge brand. And so she gave me some great advice at a mastermind.
So pointers kind of help you along your journey. You got a little bit of coaching on like on the social media and the brand building.
Because once you start doing it, it's different between you asking someone and you've never done it to where you've already done some of it, had some success, and now you could ask.
You started the journey already.
So it's the same thing with all of these
investors too, right?
Try to get around other people that have done it, but you have to do it yourself too. So jump in. And then somebody else, Ryan Pineda helped me with that at the beginning too. He gave me some great advice on it. And then Brandon Turner. So those, I have fantastic.
Great coaches.
I can't even script it better than that. They were super helpful along the journey. But Brandon has been a huge on like building a brand, and I'm going to be doing a presentation about this tomorrow at my meetup in Southern California. That I have, just talking about the different influences I've had. Because I feel like branding, just like with Apple and Google and all these huge brands, they just focus on being known in their industry. And so I just focus on like, hey, the more people that know that what I do, the more likely that I'm going to have somebody that send me deals, want to invest with me, want to partner with me, want to work on my team.
100%.
So that's why I've worked on it consistently for a good part of about 3, almost 4 years now.
Well, it's obviously working, so like kudos to you for what you're building. And I feel like it's just the beginning. You're just kind of starting your journey, even though you've come a long way, and there's so much more that you're going to build. So excited to see you're sell some stadiums in the future or some crazy amount. So like, it'll be super cool.
And I also respect tremendously your brand and how you built it up and everything you focus on. So we've had a lot of long conversations. So they've been meaningful for me too, because it helps me to remember some of the stuff that I'm working that maybe resonates with other people that they can give me some feedback on. Because it was something that kind of happened, and then I worked on it, and then people began to start to like really know more. Like, this guy invests in real estate in Southern California. Let me toss him this deal. Let me potentially work with him and invest his money. And it's just been a game changer. So I highly recommend everybody else focus on building some type of noticeable brand. And that could either be you as a person, a personal brand, as well you do it, hey, you're an investor. That could be a business brand. Hey, this company, we do this in this area. Or as I've kind of done as well, which is build a real estate investor community, which branded them the deal makers, because that was my Instagram handle, real estate deal maker.
Great name, by the way.
So they're different. You first start working on branding yourself or your company, and then you can still branch off and brand other things, or other products, or other services and the things that you do. But packaging and branding and making people aware of what you do is super important in today's age. And we have these great tools, social media. You have to use them.
100%. So looking at your journey, there's like a young guy out there who's like, I want to be like Alex Camacho, just starting out brand new. What advice would you give him to someone who's just starting their journey?
I say, first of all, just make the commitment to get educated and understand, and not just see these acronyms and know, ARV. Well, what does ARV really mean? After repair value. Well, what does that mean? It means actually knowing what you think, not knowing, but having a very clear understanding of what that house might be worth, depending on what you do to it. Right? So to get really educated. Secondly, I would say, get a network going. So either get part of some type of real estate investor community locally or regionally or nationally. There's a bunch of them out there. I don't want to pitch anyone specifically.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
get part of a
good
community that you resonate with, because you need to meet people and see what's working for other people.
Maybe to join the Deal Maker network.
Yeah, if you're in Southern California, come out to one of our meetups or join our private Facebook group. And lastly, I want to say is just take massive purposeful action, so that way you could couple that with everything else you've done, right? Because then you could lean on the stuff that you're reading about, but now you're doing. And then you could reach out to people and have.
So it's like they all work together. Exactly. So number one, you're saying educate yourself, join a good network, and then just take massive action. Like, I love that.
And the last thing I'll add to that is make regular time to think about the progress and consider and reflect on the progress you've made, because that is helping you pivot, make changes, adjustments, double down on working. So you have to put time into thinking about, hey, what progress did I make in the last 90 days?
So consciously like set aside time to just think and like review and strategize.
Exactly. What did I get done in the last 90 days? What worked, what didn't? What can I move forward on that? And then you're just constantly making adjustments and having some type of proof that, hey, this could work or it is working, because 90 days ago, I didn't know this. Yes, I don't have my first deal, but 90 days ago, I didn't know what the hell this meant or this was. And now I got all that figured out.
So you can see the progress as long as you're going to then. So amazing. Well, I mean, so good to have you on. Like, just love the energy, love your story, man. Just like excited for the future. But if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
So the easiest place is Instagram at Real Estate Deal Maker.
Okay.
So you reach me out there. My brand is kind of Alex Camacho TV.
Okay.
So you can also Google that, and we have a great YouTube channel with a bunch of free webinars, stuff that we've done on there that I think is so classic and still something people get a tremendous value for free.
100%.
And then if you happen to be in Southern California, Hawaii, or these other markets that I'm in, reach out to me. Or even if you're not, I'm happy to talk to people, engage, share anything that I've learned during my time. I do have a lot more on my plate, so I can't respond to every single message right away. But believe me, you reach out and intentional, you have a specific question, I'm happy to try to answer and help you.
Well, thanks for being on the pod, bro. Super appreciate you, and keep crushing it, man.
Let's do it.